I run sales and biz dev. We need someone from product to talk about steps. What I wanted to talk about is insights for app success. And we have a wide variety of customers from big to small. And we do see some trends that prove out success across our customer base. Hi guys, thanks for coming. A little bit about me. I've been in the cutting edge OTT video space for most of my career. I remember 2003, I worked for a little company called Orb Networks. It was literally the very first place shifting company. It was Sling before Sling. And I remember running around New York trying to get partnerships saying, you know, mobile TV is here, it's here, it's here. And I was right. I was just off by about a decade. So anything I'm forecasting, I wouldn't trust. But again, I was right, 100% right. A little bit about Applicaster. The company's been around for about 10 years. We have about 100 plus people. Arguably, we're a startup. In that 10 years, we've done the same thing since day one, which is create technologies and solutions that accelerate and enhance direct-to-consumer experiences for media companies. We've always done that. This isn't going to be a commercial, but I do want to provide just a little context on why we can share these insights. What Applecaster does is we classify ourselves as an application lifecycle management company. We're a SaaS platform, 100% SaaS platform. That's what we provide as a platform. And in our platform, you can build very robust app experiences on the front end. On the back end, there's absolutely no limitation what you connect that front end to. We have a marketplace of 400 plugins or so to things like Adobe Analytics, Comcast, MPX, all the popular systems. So you're able to create an app within our world, distribute it to all the key devices, and then manage that app over time. And we're seeing a wide range of customers adopt this new approach to building your direct-to-consumer experiences. If we look at the evolution of video, and there's different forms of this slide have come up multiple times today, and it'll come up throughout this week, but I wanted to provide a slightly different perspective. We started out with the broadcast era, moved to the narrowcast era, where we have actually VCRs, we can actually record content. And then you have things like CNN coming out with the very first 24/7 network. And then we move to the on-demand era, where we actually finally can say, I want to watch this show at this time. And then on-demand on the go, I remember the very first time I downloaded movies and watched it on an airplane or watched it in a car. But interestingly, between like the 80s and roughly 2011 or 12, from a content perspective, from HBO's perspective, from CBS's perspective, their life didn't change. They created a nice content lineup, and they went and made their money off carriage fees. They were behind the consumer. They didn't have to know the consumer. But that changed at about 2012, 2013, where the content companies actually now had to think about, I need to have a relationship with that consumer, which totally changed the game for them. They had to think about a whole different set of things, or you, if you're in the content world here in this audience, you had to think about a whole different set of things. You had to think about user management. I mean, I remember I was on the call, this is a year ago, with a very big broadcaster, and he said to me, his very first question is, WTF user management? I don't know what that means. Can you tell me what that means? Right? These are things that the e-commerce world has dealt with for a long time, and now the media world has had to deal with that over the last 5 years or so. I stole this slide from an event I was at 2 weeks ago. We're a startup, we can't afford research like this, but it was an interesting slide. And if you look here, people that will subscribe to a service here in the next whenever, they'll stick with that for only, 44% of them will stick with it for only 6 months. So that tells us if you build it, they don't necessarily come, or if they come, they're not necessarily going to stay. And so the issue is consumers are fickle. And as consumers continue to change, your direct-to-consumer experiences need to change. They cannot stay static. We see customers that stay static fail. You cannot stay static. And then you have this problem of Disney Plus, right? Disney Plus, which did, I don't know how many of their numbers are today, but it was 10 million or so in the first couple of days. I looked at their hiring metrics. They have something like 200 plus engineers just focused on one single experience. How does even the largest media companies that have very diverse or limited resources that create all these direct-to-consumer experiences, how do you keep up with that? That's really difficult. And so we want to share with you some customer insights on how we think or how we see our customer base stay competitive. And again, we're seeing a wide breadth of customers adopt this new methodology of a kind of a platform approach, if you will. So number one is set your goals. Whether it's your first set of apps, like you've never had apps before, which we see that all the time, even the largest customers, or your refresh, but you've got to set your goals. And there's a hint. There's a hint. The hint is it's not just monetize. A lot of our customers come to us and they say, monetize, we've got to monetize, we've got to monetize, we've got to monetize. But interestingly, Jason Press just said their goal, he didn't even mention monetize. Their goal was to get their customers to spend 1 hour a day on HBO Max. And so what's key is think about building lasting relationships with your consumers. If you're starting out just wanting to monetize, you're leaving money on the table. Transactions only last for so long. Transactions mean you're spending all this money for 43% of your customers to leave within 6 months. And so you need to really think about, what do I want from my consumers? My goal is for them to spend an hour a day on my app. My goal is to have them be more engaged. There are other goals that are more important than monetization. And if you accomplish those goals, monetization comes. Second insight is launch time. We talk to customers and they say, well, Roku has the largest distribution, so we want to launch on Roku. Or we think our consumers are all on Apple TV, or we just want to stay mobile. That's a mistake. You should be launching everywhere. Because if you look here, this was an interesting graph. This was our graph. I didn't steal this one. If you look at Roku, just 2 years ago, Roku was half the distribution it was today. If you look at Samsung, it was also half of what it is today. So these platforms are growing quickly. Consumers are adopting quickly. You need to be in all the places where your consumers are going to be. And you need to do it quickly. You need to get to market quickly and learn. Learn how the consumers are going to react to this experience. Number 3 main insight is iterate, iterate, iterate. You have to continue to try new things. You need to try a new campaign. You need to try new navigation. You need to try these things to help accomplish your goals. This was a crazy stat that I saw a long time ago, that in mankind's history, the times where we make the most medical advancements is during wartime. Because you have these doctors in the field, limited tools, limited time to try and save this life. And they're willing to try new things because they don't have any other choice. This is the content wars. We're not shooting at each other, no one's dying. I mean, it's not like we're curing cancer, but it is still a war to own that consumer, and you have to be willing to try new things. The dirty little secret of the industry, and we see this all the time. The day after you launch your app, the day after, now it might not be exactly the day, maybe it's 30 days after, that app is irrelevant. And it's irrelevant for a whole suite of reasons. It's irrelevant because Samsung made a change to Tizen. It's irrelevant because Apple made a change to OS, tvOS. It's irrelevant because you made a strategy change, which requires a technology change, which requires an execution change. It's irrelevant because you're seeing high user bail on login screen. All of these things make that app irrelevant. And you need to be able to make changes to that app real time. So if you look at the app GTM process that we engage with our customers, it's set goals, plan and prep, get to market quickly. Then you're thinking about things like audience growth. Then you're thinking about things like audience monetization. And then you're iterating and you're making changes to continue to engage that consumer and ensuring you're maximizing the opportunity with your consumer. So, very brief summary. Create lasting relationships with your consumers. It's not about monetization. Build loyalty. E-commerce learned this 10 years ago. Do it fast, or excuse me, this isn't the fast slide. This is do it everywhere. Distribute your apps everywhere. Don't skip one. Continue to try new things. And lastly, pick technologies that are flexible. Pick technology partners that can allow you to try and iterate and do new things. That's all I got. Jim Bennette, Applecaster. Peace out.